This material is made available to you by or on behalf of the University of Melbourne under Section 113P of the Copyright Act 1968. It may be subject to copyright. For more information, visit the University Copyright website.
Good afternoon and welcome. My name's Jennifer Henry and I'm a member of the Gifts and Wills team here at the University. We acknowledge that we meet today on the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, who are the traditional custodians of this land. And as we learn today about global child health issues, we also acknowledge the disparities around access to health care for remote Indigenous communities in particular. We repay our respects to our Indigenous elders, both past, present and emerging, and extend our respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who are joining us today. For those of you who like access to the hearing loop, it's available throughout this theatre, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the second Heritage Society event for the year. I welcome my colleagues, Emily McCaffrey, who'll give a little wave, and James Davis from the Gifts and Wills teams. Many of you will know these people through email or phone, but not necessarily face-to-face. And apologies from our team member Marilyn Julian, who is on leave. I extend a special welcome to those attending their first Heritage Society meeting today, and we also are joined by two former leaders of the program. It's very special to have Elizabeth Douglas and Sue Girling-Butcher with us today. Thank you and welcome. As you'll know, the Heritage Society was established by Sue Girling-Butcher over a decade ago as a way of acknowledging and thanking those of you who have included a gift to the University in their will, which is a very personal and profound step. We also welcome supporters of the Free O2 project today. Your donations have enabled this wonderful project to flourish. Thank you. However you choose to support the University, please know that your support is invaluable and does enable us to continue research, teaching and learning and engagement. Today's guest speaker is Associate Professor Roger Rassool from the School of Physics. Roger was born in Uganda, emigrated to Australia and then earned a science degree with honours and a PhD in nuclear and particle physics, both here at Melbourne. He's the group leader of the Physics Solutions Laboratory, who leverage expertise and inexpensively solve problems in the developing world. Roger's worked in many remote communities, from Australia to Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania, and he has a strong personal commitment to equitable access to education. Today, Roger and his team will share their story of how a group of physicists, medical researchers and engineers team together with doctors, technicians and local entrepreneurs in Africa to develop Free O2, which is an oxygen supply system to those who need it most, particularly children suffering from pneumonia. It's a fascinating story, told very compellingly, and there will be question time at the end, so save up those burning questions. Please join me in welcoming Roger Rassool.
Now, before I switch this microphone on, this is a lovely forum. I did actually lose my voice a few days ago. I'll just turn the mic down because my voice is a little louder than Jennifer's, I think, and might boom through. And if any... Can you hear me okay? Okay. So, welcome. This is my first time lecturing in this... giving a talk in this theatre. I won't lecture. I wouldn't presume. And I don't know my audience. So before I find out about my audience, maybe I'll just tell you a tiny bit about me, because apparently it's all about me. I'm the person standing out here in the blue shirt. Thank you for coming, the very first thing. And this is the most important slide. This is what my mind looks like most of the time. But I need to take you back a long, long time ago. It's an exciting day for me to bump into people who probably have known me as a student as well as a member of staff. You see, when I was young, I dreamt of actually being an astronaut. And that was probably in grade 4. And we were going to the moon and we were building our own rocket and it was going to be made out of balsa wood. But we'd paint it so that it wouldn't catch fire. And we wanted to make fuels, and apparently I had all the how and why books on how to do everything like that. But that wasn't to be, apparently, you know, because you had to go to NASA, and Australia wasn't going to have its own NASA. And so I ended up doing what really excited me, was just studying. And I came to this university not knowing this university at all, because as Jennifer hinted, my family emigrated here, so they hadn't been to university, and I didn't even know where the university was. And when I got my position, I remember turning up to the University of Melbourne with Dad, and we came to find it. We lived in Layla, so we drove all the way here. It didn't take long at that time because there was no traffic, right? And we walked around, and the memory I have is Union House, and I met some people who were having a coffee. I think it was Vaughan and Margaret before having a coffee at Union House. And at Union House, we saw a magazine that I had never seen in my life before. Now, those of you associated with the university might know that magazine as by the name of Farrago. Yes. And I remember Dad and I seeing Farrago and opening it up and seeing not just naked women, but naked men. And that was 1978. And that's my first memory of this great university. And so our new Vice-Chancellor's not here to hear that, but I'm sure it'll filter back that I think we should bring back, you know, the 70s, you know, so that it's more of that. All right, so this story is going to be told. It's apparently from a physics lab. This is our physics lab, our most recent one. You know, we did actually do a little bit of work there. I never thought that my life would actually take me all the way to work at CERN on the biggest experiment in the world, the most expensive experiment in the world, except now, you know, the astronomers are coming up with more expensive experiments. But the good thing about physics is you can always think about something that's even more complicated, you know, and more expensive. Not mapping the human genome, Phil, how much did that cost? $1 billion. We cost 8, right? So we outdid the geneticists, you know, by a factor of 8. And people say, oh, but you could have used that money to cure cancer. $8 billion. So just pointed out, how many aeroplanes is that for the US military? You know, 2.5 aeroplanes, I think. You know, $8 billion is nothing in the overall scheme of things. And by the way, every bit of technology in any hospital that you visit that goes ping probably came out of the technology that was built for these experiments. The good thing about physics is you get to work in teams. And I'd like to introduce you to a couple of members of my team, and there are some chairs down here. So Bryn and Dave, you get to come down and sit down here and give part of the talk, so they're in there. I brought these chairs earlier, so here are some I prepared earlier. So, and you can tell how excited they looked. just like they look exciting there. And being physicists, I'm going to task them with one thing. The red button switches it on just in case you guys need it. So, yeah, you might as well turn it on now. Basil won't mind. We'll start to use some battery power up, a little bit of more greenhouse gases. And they don't know. Have you got it on yet, Bryn? Can we test it? Yep. No? Here we go. Try now. It's working now?
Yes, it's working.
Excellent. Bryn, what were you going to be when you were a kid?
So this is not rehearsed, or I would have known to come out here to begin with. I don't know if you know the answer. I wanted to be a soccer player and a writer when I was the age.
Soccer player and writer. Dave, pass the mic to him. Yeah.
I don't remember what I wanted to be when I was a little kid. I came to uni to do forensics when I came to uni, so I did a lot of chemistry, but ended up in physics.
All right, and this journey took this team to work on the biggest experiment. So they both did PhDs. We got to meet Deputy Prime. We're really good at getting rid of governments. So get the Deputy Prime Minister to come and see us, and the government lose power. Our dreams do come true. You know, we did find the Higgs boson. We built the Australian synchrotron. Bryn, your PhD, or Dave, your PhD. Seeing you built half of this damn thing. Yeah.
So this one.
Yeah, it's working.
It is.
Yep.
I can always just be loud anyway.
It should be working. Otherwise, I'll give you this one here. I think they can hear.
Yeah. Okay. So Roger and I, when we first went to the Australian synchrotron, looked a bit different to this. Didn't have any of the walls. I think it had a bit of the glass at the front. A lot of more construction buildings, a lot more steel cap shoes around. And so Roger and I were part of the original accelerator group at the synchrotron as sort of adjuncts from the University of Melbourne. My PhD project was on the storage of the electron beam in the Australian synchrotron. So the more electrons you put in, it's great because you get more X-rays out for the scientists, but the more you put in, the more unstable it gets. And so we created systems that would detect the instabilities and then correct them in real time. So 500 megahertz, 1 gigahertz round time for calculations. And so we built that, put it in, instrumented it, came up with some neat papers out of it. And we did that, for my PhD at that time.
Well, what did you do for your PhD?
So
You started in geology first,
yeah, a
didn't
bit
you?
before that.
Yeah.
I actually also couldn't find the university when I came down for the interview. I went to the Royal Exhibition buildings instead. So fast forward a long time, and I ended up doing a PhD between the particle physics group here and ETH in Zurich.
What did you do your honours project on?
Landmine detection. So every 20 minutes a child somewhere steps on a landmine, and Roger and I explored using thermalised neutrons to look for the nitrogen that most explosives contain.
Was your PhD going to cure cancer?
It is being very actively used in that area, but it would be a little bit misleading to say I went into it knowing that's what it was going to be used for. So I crudely imagine as an accelerator physicist, Dave keeps the electron spinning, which give off the light. My PhD was on the detectors that image the light that is bounced off the samples. So by developing a really expensive X-ray camera, I can go into more detail, but I don't want to put you to sleep. We can, by knowing exactly where the bright spots of the light are after they've bounced off your chocolate or your piece of hair from Beethoven, you can work out what's in the material and understand its structure. So I did my PhD on semiconductor physics for imaging those photons.
And the work that Bryn worked on, we brought to the Australian synchrotron, and this detector system is used on the Australian synchrotron. There was a spin-out company from this. Our good friend Christian Brenneman spun out. I think there are 117 employees now in Switzerland. 40 billion euro turnover. We could have been part of that, but something went wrong in the plan because these two young men were destined to become academics. Completely useless, unemployable. Oh, sorry, wrong type of thing. And then something happens, and we argue about the date. And so Bryn says it's 2010, I say it's 2011. Bryn, what happened?
So we attended the No Limits symposium at the Nossel Institute for Global Health, and just briefly, it was actually a little bit like this. Some medical doctors who work in the frontline health clinics around the world had brought together their colleagues and scientists and technical people from different disciplines, so physicists and chemists, biology, IT, and presented the challenge that they face day to day, trying to serve the children dying in front of them. And so it was basically trying to get real problems in front of nerds from different backgrounds.
And I'm just going to pause, Bryn, there, because that's part of the story. But remember, we're physicists. And by the way, put your hand up in the room. Listen very carefully to the question. Can everybody hear me clearly? Put your hand up if you're not prepared to answer the question. Right, no hands have gone up. It's really safe. Put your hand up if you love or hate physics. Wow. 100% response, Okay, both, well, not quite 100%. So, okay, you're in between. You don't love it. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, we always worry about teaching physics because we never know about the audience. Physics lectures still use demos at the University of Melbourne. And, Fiona Caro's here. David might have lectured a little bit differently to this, but we lecture very hands-on. And so, some students see physics as a bicycle that will take them to become a vet. They want to ride that little physics bicycle and not fall off. If they don't fall off, veterinary science might let them in, and they pass first year physics, and that's a great thing. There are other students. Put your hand up if you're in a blue shirt and an engineer. No, oh, sorry. Oh, there's a few more. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Hang on. What was the question? The question was if you're in a blue shirt and an engineer, and this engineer put his hand up. I mean, that says something, right? Oh, by the way, most physicists are left-handed and colourblind, okay? Yeah, or most good physicists. I'm only left-handed, unfortunately. Okay. Engineers look at this and they marvel about the device and the axle. They spend years doing their axles. You built a gearbox, didn't you, or something in your capstone project. The tension in these spokes and how the thread turns and all this type of thing. But these two are taught that this could be the model of the universe, for instance, the angular momentum in the universe. Or it could be the model for a proton, and actually this is a quark, and if you've got two up-spinning quarks and one down-spinning quark, you've got a proton, and if you flip the spin on one of the other ones, you've got a neutron. Lost the audience, you see? Perfect. Right. One of the things physicists know is to detect that. That says, I'm gone. But the beautiful thing about physics is that you can actually explain why that occurs. And this, so there we go. Turn somebody. Would you come out for one moment, please, and do a very simple experiment? Okay, here we go. Are you okay? Yeah, let's see how we go. All right. No, I don't think we'll make it with the chair. It could be dangerous. So, Meryl, welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Now, I want you to, nice to meet you. Yeah. I hope you've got somebody to take you home in case something goes wrong. Okay? Right? So, simply hold that with your hands, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I want you to tell me, is that very heavy?
It's quite.
Oh, okay. It's relatively light compared to 7 tons of feathers, isn't it?
Okay. But to hold it up.
Yeah. Okay, can you move it up and down easily?
Yeah.
That's easy. Yeah. Can you move it forward and back?
Yeah.
That's pretty easy.
That's easy.
And can you twist it like that?
That's easier.
Easier, right? So you heard the word easier. Now, all I'm going to do is put a bit of a spin into the story.
Yes.
Right? And all I'm going to do is spin this. Just mind that coat there. And I'm going to get you to redo those experiments carefully.
While it's spinning.
While it's spinning. It's very dangerous. You prepared to do that?
I'll have a go.
Have a go. Good student. Right. Okay. All right. Now, up and down. Easy. Yep. Forward and back. Pretty easy.
Yes.
Twist. That was much easier.
Oh God, there's a force pushing on there. Something's happening.
You are destined, see, you've got to no longer nod no. You are destined to be a physicist. You felt the force. May the force be with you too. Right? Thank you very much. Yeah. This may not explode, hopefully, became our new model of what was about to become the new research area for our team. In here, we had no idea. Actually, I won't ask the engineer to calculate the volume. I asked you and you had no idea, Sid. You get to feature in a minute. Could anyone estimate the volume of this, please? That's the formula for it, and all our students tell us that. And then I say, next time you go in the supermarket, go and buy 4/3 pi R cube of milk, right? And somebody might say we sell it by the milliliter or something like that if we're Aldi, right? Okay, and it's about 20 or 30 litres, right? This is enough to keep a child alive for an hour, and we're going to find out why. And that was the big change for us. Where did I put it? Oh, over here. Haven't lost it, Dave. Trust me. So this No Limit Symposium introduced us to the biggest problem on Earth, a problem that we had no idea about, and we weren't sure what to do about it. And here's the story. It takes 30 seconds. And that was the story that Bryn, Dave, myself heard. It got our attention. It refocused us onto how to contribute. Now, as Bryn was going to go on in the story and say, what did the doctors want?
They wanted many things, but the problem we locked onto was the providing access to reliable oxygen so they can treat children with hypoxemia, usually due to pneumonia, but severe malaria, for example, also causes it.
And so every 30 seconds, a good friend of Fiona and David was Jeff Opat, and Jeff taught me that there are pi by 10 to the 7 seconds in a year. If you want to win Trivial Pursuit, pi by 10 to the 7 seconds in a year, so this made sense to us. But 1.6 billion people on Earth have got no electricity. They've got no access to oxygen. They've got no money. Children suffering from pneumonia, we found out, well, even if you give them antibiotics, they still die. But Trevor Duke, that Bryn mentioned, one of the professors from the Royal Children's Hospital, has done extensive studies on providing children with oxygen at an early stage can reduce mortality, I think 40%, just by helping them breathe. That's the amount of oxygen you need to keep a tiny baby alive for an hour. Do you get me? Enough to help them recover. This is what kills children. It's not car accidents. It's actually not AIDS or malaria. It's pneumonia and diarrhea. If you want to get rid of these problems, solve world hunger, world poverty, remove corruption, and then in 1,000 years' time, maybe we do something about it. And sorry, this button sorry, my apologies. This is where the children die. You want to live in a green area, right? You don't want to live in Africa, you don't want to live in Timor-Leste or PNG or places like that, because that's where your young children are at risk. Remember, 99 in 100 die in those areas. Pneumonia is not a problem in Australia because the minute a child's got pneumonia, we've got a fantastic healthcare system. This was a photograph I took on one of my first recent trips back to, this was in Kenya, actually, in Kibera. And this is where 2 or 3 million people are living. This is, and these are the only heart-aching ones. From then on, we don't have those. But that's what we're dealing with. This is what this is a health system for a country like Uganda. So Uganda's got 40 million people, 39 million people, 14 major hospitals for 40 million people. The majority of these people don't have access to those hospitals, and that's not where the solution is and where the problem is. This is where 40 million people get their health support from tiny little health centres out in the middle of nowhere, with no electricity running to them, no access to a good road, no oxygen cylinders. Maybe you can, use a, actually we worked out, our next thing has to involve, what do you call those quadcopters? Drones, yeah. We need drones. If we put drones, I think we'll get a tremendous amount of research money to do our next thing. So we'll deliver oxygen by drones, apparently, yeah. And this is what a typical ward in a hospital looks like in Uganda. I want you to imagine it. Actually, I hope many of us don't have to visit hospitals too often. But when we walk into a hospital in Australia, there's a machine that's going bing, 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 connected to somebody. There's amazing lights. There are PowerPoints. There are knobs on the wall and whatever. This is what the hospital looks like in Uganda. There's a wall. Same in Tanzania. Same in Mozambique, where we're planning to work. Our hearts go out to the tyranny of problems that our Mozambican friends have had. 2 cyclones in 6 weeks, and now the major thing they're dealing with is food problems, access to food. Donors donate some of these things. They just don't last. There's no maintenance, there's no electricity, there's no way of getting the gas bottles back filled. And, Yeah, Bryn, are we going to Uganda tonight? No, we changed our minds. Actually, we were on a plane to Uganda tonight, and it's changed, and we're going to Tanzania. But we wouldn't fly in this. This is what everyone wants, by the way. Everybody wants us to actually solve the problems by using solar power. You know, that's how we're going to save the world. We're going to use renewable energy. Now, this guy, Bertrand Piccard, and his friend, Andre, they've got this nutcase idea of making a solar-powered aeroplane. And people actually said to them, how many passengers are you going to take in this plane? How big is this plane going to be? How useful is it going to be? And you know the answer was? 0. And then somebody said to them, what use will that be? 0 people. Why do you want to fly around the world when you can take no passengers? And Piccard said, I just want to change the way people think. Because everyone thinks you've got to use fossil fuels. And that's the solution. And the minute I actually achieve this, I will have changed the world forever. Now, if you ask anybody to actually make oxygen, by the way, Bryn, you should actually state what really cheesed you off at the Rassool meeting, and I'll prime you a little bit, the air around you.
Yes, I'm not. I don't even have first aid training, and at this No Limit Symposium, I'd of course heard of pneumonia, particularly for the older generation, but I had no idea that it was the biggest killer of children worldwide. And then a few minutes later, we learnt that the medicine, the proven life-saving medicine, is literally floating around these dying kids. And it's just too much to accept. I mean, surely we can do better than that. And so Dave and I were starting postdocs in different physics fields, and Roger was the director of ACAT, the Australian Centre for Accelerated Science at the time. But it was the start of us starting to spend our spare time trying to remove this unacceptable inequity that exists in our world.
Now remember, this is 2010, 2011, 2012, many years ago. And so this group has this new impossible dream. Bryn, what was our dream?
So most of the kids that die are from rural areas without access to electricity. So we thought, okay, we'll do it without electricity.
How much electricity?
None.
How much?
0 watts.
Yeah, 0 electricity. Now, Dave, you wrote the application, didn't you?
Well, we both wrote the application. So as Bryn was saying, we were sort of deep in our science careers at this point. And my PhD involved a lot of playing with the beam at the Australian synchrotron, which in theory could produce a large amount of radiation if you stuffed it up. And so we were relegated to working, midnight to 6 in the morning, where it was just us and the security guard. And so Bryn and I had come back from a relatively, I think, productive / I can't remember. We had unproductive and productive about that same time. So one of these productive nights, we came back, it was early in the morning, we said, we'll get some work done and go home early. And we thought, well, here's this application. The Bill and Melinda Gates group, as part of a collaboration, have said, put in your ideas, and if we think they're reasonable, we'll invite you to Washington and hopefully give you some money. And we thought, well, this sounds good. We could use, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 just to build a prototype so we can see if it works. And we found the paperwork. We hadn't slept. We filled it out. I signed for the head of the school. I think Bryn signed for someone in the research department. And
is this being recorded?
Yes.
It wasn't the document that ended up being finally submitted, but it's what got to the Gates Foundation.
And we should clarify, it didn't actually stipulate that the head of department should sign there. It said authorising signature.
Yeah.
And so I thought I'd...
All right, okay, guys, we're going for time. In the interest of time, I think we should wind back that recording a little bit, because that was a waste of time, that last little bit. Anyway, it got funded. And here's what happened. We proposed the using of water flowing through a small stream, because there's a lot of water on this earth, through 302 to make oxygen. There's the photo of the team. I don't know, that must have been after about 4 years, I reckon, that photo probably, wasn't it? Yeah. out in the middle of nowhere.
Pneumonia kills more children globally than any other disease. Reliable oxygen supplies can save countless lives, but that means a reliable power supply, often lacking where it's most needed. Now, a small team has tapped into a simpler power source, the water flowing in a stream. Their ingenious system compresses air, then fills up nitrogen to produce life-saving oxygen. They call it free O2. Low cost, easy to maintain, just add water.
Free O2, fully renewable energy, FRE, O2, oxygen. So we've got the branding right from the word go. And have you broken it, Bryn? It's already. And this is where our journey's taken us. So to start off with, grand challenges, Canada and USA, contrary to what people think, it wasn't because I was born in Uganda, we went there. Bryn randomly met somebody who said, come and work with Uganda, like we are. Like we ended up working with Christian Burnham in Switzerland on Bryn's research project. We said, yeah, fine. We subsequently ended up helping the people in Nigeria, helping people in Tanzania, sending systems to PNG. They're all over the world. This is what we're combating. Many donors have donated equipment, but it's not about the technology. It's about putting the ecosystem around the technology. It's about training local people to help maintain this. It's about empowering them with technology, tools, all other things. And that's the big challenge. It's not about how smart we are as a group of physicists, engineers, medicos, other people. We've got to bring business, we've got to bring commerce, we've got to bring lawyers, we've got to bring logistics in to solve this problem. And we've got to embrace the local community and basically empower the community to take care of itself. So what we bring is the knowledge transfer. We actually benefited from 100 and 200 years of physics before us, where we learned from our elders, and now our job is to share that learning. And we're trying to build sustainable business models now in Africa, starting in sub-Saharan Africa, and soon moving to Timor-Leste and Solomon Islands. And we want to change this wall. We want to imagine that in every one of these things, forget about the technology. There's a tap on the wall that works. And on the other side of the wall is this constant, reliable source of oxygen that keeps that tap flowing. And if I didn't press the off button, it would have stayed up there. And we can use we've got too many innovations now. We can use solar energy, we can use wind, we can use water, we can use electricity. We can make oxygen, we can store it at very low cost in plastic bags, not oxygen cylinders. We can put a hole through the wall and actually deliver it. We've done a clinical trial. Dave, what was the measure of success for the clinical trial?
We treated just around 80 children every 3 months.
Yeah, but the key measure, oxygen availability was?
100%.
100%. Now, physicists have trouble saying 100%. You know, we normally want to say 97 plus or minus X. So we just said 100%, right? But it's a team that's actually got us there. There are 2 other members of the team. You guys can come and grab your chairs. Come down, sit down quickly. And there's a new member of the team who hasn't got a blue shirt but answered the question. Graham, we're missing a chair. Do you want to actually sit down in that corner down there? Graham's moonlighting. He's an engineer who's still on the payroll at Melbourne Uni. Graham or not?
No.
Oh, finally not on the payroll. But turns up every day to our lab, working and volunteering on the way to Mozambique in a few weeks' time. All right. This is Bryn, teaching students. So now I'm going to go till Jennifer gives me the wind-up. So I've only got about another 4 hours. Is that okay, everyone? Yeah? No? Okay. So, and the one thing Jennifer doesn't know, I'm blind on this side, right? Okay. There's Bryn and Dave. We did all the testing. I'm going to rapidly tell the story. You guys interrupt. There's 2 mics if you need to. They've gone there. That's Bryn and David. These are the guys working on these $8 billion projects out in the middle of nowhere on Bryn's farm where we're testing. Put your hand up on the team if you actually grew up on a farm or worked manually or stuff like that. Do you get me? We all learnt to weld and drill holes and everything else like that. This is the machine built single-handedly that uses no electricity. This is us in Washington. These photos are just in different orders. This is us promoting it, as Dave says, you know, to the fundraisers that supported us. This is, what's her name?
Adriana?
Adriana, head of WHO Medical Devices, whatever, comes to find us to tell us, Bryn, do you remember this photo?
Yeah, that was in Kenya.
Yeah, that's Samuel saying to Bryn, I need to do an experiment. 10 minutes later, Bryn was actually being experimented on. We didn't need ethics approval for this because we're doing it on ourselves, all right. Bryn actually can drive a tractor. Do you get me? It's very useful. It's very illegal to have your child on the tractor while you're doing it without a seatbelt. That's Bryn's part. Oh, yeah, water. There we go. That's the water pipe that, you know, my partner and Bryn and a few others and Dave, when we all lay there. Kevin, I don't think you ran that pipe. You weren't there. You know. And there's George Zilla. We borrowed a lab in engineering. Do we ever flood their lab, Bryn, or not?
Not really.
Not much. There. So this is the Australian High Commissioner, John Fakes, and we've got tremendous support from the Christian Brothers Network, religious network. 43% of the health network in these countries, up to between 40 to 70% is run by the churches. You know, it's very, very important. Okay, randomly, we turn up to Uganda, out in the middle of nowhere. The director of the hospital won't see us initially. You remember, Bryn? Wouldn't see us. And we say to the secretary, just please tell the director it's Dr. Sobbett and Dr. Rassool from the University of Melbourne. He comes flying out and says, I'm an alumnus. Celestine Barige is an alumnus. You know, and Graham Brown, Professor Graham Brown, he was his student. Bryn and I, we're regular guests, aren't we? Or not anymore. That was when Obama. That was so we used to drop by the White House, you know, and Obama would see us. Dave, do you remember self-experimentation?
Yeah, I remember that.
So Dave actually designed, by the way, we get the branding right all the time, NEOM, non-invasive arterial monitor. We're trying to build a device to stop people who have PET scans having arterial punctures in to measure their blood radioactivity, because 15 to 20% of those cases result in infection afterwards. You know, so we built that. The Australian synchrotron needed some technology, so we just built it. This is how half of 302 is built, just in our lab. This is Dave. This is what Dave's like most of the time, staring. This is what,
usually he's holding a stick.
Yeah, no, this is what Dave is like finally when it's working. The left-hand side took us, I don't know, 5 years, 4 years. I reckon this side only took us about a year, didn't it? 18 months. So we made an absolute fortune out of this. We made $500,000 effectively out of this device and sold it as a synchrotron to fund 302. Dave, giving a talk. You know, it's not always Roger. We all actually pitch, you know, but today, you know, I've got the privilege of being wingmaster in the circus. There's Dave and Mark Marino, right? Very influential philanthropist and fundraiser. He was also on the Shark Tank, I think, wasn't he? Yeah. By the way, in building these devices with water, we steal every piece of equipment we can from this university to monitor it, to design it. How much the oxygen monitor? I reckon it's $30,000, isn't it, Brent? Stolen out of Webley's lab, was it, or?
It's been permanently borrowed.
Borrowed, okay, all right. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so now spot. Okay, that's you saw young Dave and young Bryn. There's some air moving there. All right. This is young Jim. No,
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay, no worries. The definition of a minute. Okay. Yeah. Okay. This is our medical doctor. So this is him in 1994. This is him in 84, 94, 2003. And this is him finally, he figures that we've finally done it. You know, this is Jim and I in New York when we won the World Pneumonia Day prize. David Pennington isn't here today. He sent an email saying that he couldn't come. Randomly, the connections, the 6 degrees of separation are amazing. In our lab, we had a very young student. Did he do work experience with us? Yeah, work experience. Will Pennington. David Pennington's grandson, you know. So I brought his, if David was here today, I was going to ask, take this, you know, home for a week, but we need it back because we hang on to all of our records. This. Who's the person in the green? Put your hand up if you're the person in the green. This is Kevin Rassool, right? Happens to share a similar surname, Smith, Rassool and Smith. Jamie Stevens, Kevin as a young age. This is Kevin at a slightly older age. How long have you volunteered for 302, Kev?
5 years.
5 years. This is Kevin working with some industrial companies, bringing engineering skills to us. This is Kevin graduating. As my mum and dad, I figured they might as well get into Photoshop. This is Kevin apparently running. Okay, there we go. But this is the one I want to show you. This is Kevin also giving back to community, running Indigenous programs. We run RISE, he's lived in communities, whatever. This is what the university creates, the empowerment of people to go and help others and accidentally win prizes as you go along. This is Sid. Sid, how long have you volunteered for 302?
About 3 years.
3 years. Sid, an engineer. Right, physicists working with engineers, unheard of in the university that would actually collaborate, right? And a team that actually won the absolute, what did you win?
Best project in mechanical engineering.
Top project in mechanical engineering. Students, right? And women too. And we've had female students. I know there's only males here today, but we've had female students. We win this prize, and then we win Australia's top scientific prize. That journey, by the way, was not funded by the ARC, was not funded by the NHMRC, was self-funded by this team, primarily Brennan, David and myself in the early days, because we couldn't get research funding. It's a philanthropic project. If you ask the three deans of science, engineering and medicine, they each think that science thinks it's an engineering problem, engineering thinks it's a medical problem, medicine thinks it's, it goes around in circles. So our journey.
1 minute.
Seven years of R&D, research and development, and now we've treated one child. Actually, we've treated a little more than that. But this was an amazing time. So when we took this wall that had nothing, and we put this oxygen outlet on the wall, and we forgot. We didn't engage people in what was on about. We built a company, a small group of people. Frank installed this system. Very proud of it. I have photos to show later. This is baby Francis, the first child we treated. He came in very sick. That's him 2 days later, after receiving oxygen for 2 days. This is Carly Silver, the CEO of Grand Challenges Canada, who she took the risk on us. Wouldn't you say, Dave and Bryn? Yep. She took the risk. Canadians funded us. And this is now the next 302 team. We look forward to when you visit Uganda or Tanzania. We've got a team in Tanzania. We're heading to Tanzania on Saturday night, that you meet Sheila, second from the right, who's a biomedical engineer. We're hoping to get her upskilled here in the University of Melbourne, and her team, that's 302, Uganda. They're the statistics now. So we go from 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 I didn't bother putting 2011 and all those years, and now we've treated 282 children. And in the next few years, there'll be thousands and tens of thousands of children treated, and it's all about baby Francis. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Roger. Compelling as always. Now, we do have a little time for questions. Who would like to start the ball rolling?
These guys don't need the mics. Yeah, they can speak up. Definitely.
How are you actually going to be able to roll this out? Are you going to use the Christian Brothers Association across Uganda? And what sort of timetable do you have?
Dave, you take it. Roll out.
So your first question was about the collaboration with the Christian Brothers? Yep. So it varies within each country. So, for example, about 3 months ago, I was at Kalembe Mines, actually where the Ebola outbreak is at the moment, and that's run by a Christian group, and the amount of organisation is apparent. And so we see that collaboration. You could think of them as early adopters, as a very as a cost-effective and efficient and natural collaboration to quickly get many systems out there. The speed that we can scale depends on funding. Depending on what, I mean, I can expand on that if you like. But it's a balance between expanding at a speed, because these children are dying, we need to hurry. But if we go too quickly and don't allow time to learn from our mistakes, then that will also have negative consequences.
Can I do terrible gratuitous self-promotion? The opening slide, and the Macquarie Group turned 50 this year. Last year they called for nominations or self-nominations or from any not-for-profit that had a worthy project. They received 983 applications worldwide. They put $50 million up. And Frio2 is one of the 12 finalists that has been shortlisted for one of 5 shares of 10 million. If we get that, then that changes, as Bryn says, our ability to scale, and that we see that across a 5-year partnership where that actually, we leverage that funding to bring faith-based, we call them faith-based organisations, FBOs, and the MOHs, Ministries of Health. But it's very important that, as Dave and I know, that we develop a very clear business plan to not just flood the market with equipment, but actually build capacity and generate that demand. We'll stop there.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to ask a question. My name's Ken Hudson. I come from Geelong, and there's a group connected to the church I attend which supports a Christian centre, Bushakuri Christian Centre it's called, in Uganda. Now, they have an education function, but they also have a medical function. They serve about 23,000 people surrounding in that area, and they would be interested in this project. I mean, they have the same problem that you've described, where the power goes off from time to time. I've also been to East Timor, and East Timor has the same problem. So my question is, how does a centre like that get one of these? And if it's a matter of cost, I don't think you've mentioned the cost of each installation. But you know, I would like to be able to say, well, can they contact? Do they fill out a form? Do they ring somebody? Do they make application? So what's the process to get on the list? And if it's a matter of funds, how much would it be? And maybe we just raise the funds.
Thank you for your question. I'm going to pre-answer the question, then pass it to another member of the team. The key thing for 7 years is that we never asked for donations, because the donations would have gone to funding salaries and everything else like that. And so we took the burden on ourselves to fund our own salaries if we could. The university paid mine, but Bryn and David didn't have salaries, and so we raised that through grants. We're now transitioning to actually manufacture and provide equipment, and the answer to your question is our target price is less than $5,000 per system. To contextualise that, if a small health centre had to even buy oxygen in cylinders, it would cost them $10,000 to $15,000 a year to do that. But how are they going to get it?
So what you've described is our goal. So I'm Kevin, my role is a product engineer, and my tasks in the group is to take what we've talked about here, take our innovations and get them onto the shelves so that people can walk into their local medical supply shop, wherever they are throughout the world, and order a Frio2 system, and it is delivered to them. So we're currently, at the moment, we're in discussions with multiple manufacturers throughout Europe, Africa and Asia, and we currently, it is not possible to get our to get our technology delivered to your door. But with the right funding, we can kickstart our manufacturing, and we will be able to deliver. We will be able to scale and scale rapidly.
Bryn, is there room for strategic partnerships along the way, like Barmer, like we've done with them?
Yeah, so you'll be shocked seeing from our background that we're very much driven by data. So we spend a lot of effort on monitoring what we're putting out there and how well is it performing. Are the right kids getting the oxygen? So that, again, it's a balance between trying to go quickly to get the oxygen to the kids who need it and capturing enough evidence along the way. And Roger sort of alluded to it at the start. So most of our grants have come from organisations that are very focused on evidence, and we're naturally lean that way anyway. So, but in terms of building sustainability, personally, I'm very optimistic, because oxygen has been shown to be twice as cost effective as vaccinations for pneumonia, and also, again, from our colleagues over at RCH, introduction of reliable oxygen supplies via an oxygen concentrator has been shown to have a payback time of less than 6 months compared to the status quo IE cylinders. So we believe the economics, even though our customers are the poorest people in the world, the economics are very strongly in favour of oxygen, and we're building evidence to encourage multilaterals and NGOs and ultimately ministries of health to spend limited resources to say, yes, we want oxygen in our clinics.
So Ken, now to carefully answer your question. How we've got into all the sites we are currently is through relationships and having early adopters that are willing to carefully go on to that next step as we start to build a system is very important. So I'd suggest we connect and understand and see how that can be done. The financing's never been an issue for us. You know, we find a way of paying for it, and as I said, we make sure the donor money goes to the country itself.
I need your microphone, please. All right, Roger and his team will be around for questions through afternoon tea, so you'll have plenty of time to descend on them a little more. Please join me in thanking Roger's team. You need to share that with everyone.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. I invite all Heritage Society members now to join us for the next presentation from Felicity Baker on the 21st of August on how music therapy is being used to treat those with dementia and depression. That's 21st of August. So now I invite you all into the foyer to enjoy afternoon tea and mingle with your fellow Heritage Society members and Freo 2 supporters, and thank Roger and his team once more. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Good job. Nice photos. Thanks, Basil. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Phil. Thank you. Take care, mate. So see you. Yeah. Catch you. Let me know. Well, just as a
So I think one of the things we actually requested in that integration strategy. And our exit strategy is partnerships. So what we've actually done is not only this was really about getting because it's about the process of life to help us solve this. It's most important. And sorry, I've been 2 days ago. I think this whole round, yes, we've got grandchildren, Kroger Medical, which is a second-tier medical company on the top tier. We were approached by thoughts and our analysis that wouldn't actually go into the market and so why did the science Kroger's being true to their word? They're a small company, they manufacture 8,000 units. So we've got a perfect partnership. We've already delivered. They've got an agreement to deliver. They're going to free. And also they've already agreed to €300 or €400 for a system that we open retail and buy free. So what we know. We know what we need. We know and what we also have to do is the mechanism by which we push it. Like we could turn up, we could turn up things. I know that piercing is probably and that will have very strong how do we Are you okay? We're getting a cup of coffee? Yeah,